Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report with some major Raiders head coaching updates to be able to discuss. We're not only going to talk about Davis Webb, we're going to talk about what the Raiders' plan B could be in case Klint Kubiak says, hey, I'm not interested in this Raiders job. I was literally at the gym. I'm still kind of freaking out over this a little bit because if you're the Raiders, you are all in on Klint Kubiak at this point because this one coming in from Adam Schefter, Broncos pass game coordinator. Davis Webb is withdrawing from consideration for the Raiders head coaching job per source. Webb interviewed for the head coaching job with the Raiders, Bills, and the Ravens. So the very first interview that the Raiders had was Davis Webb back on Wednesday, January 7th. Then they ended up interviewing on this past Monday, and that was that second in-person job. Listen, man, I bleed silver and black. I will do everything I can do in my possible power to keep you guys up to date. So that's why I want you to hit that subscribe button. I was really joking with Reed. Reed's been here for freaking 12 hours. I feel like I'm going nuts. I'm losing sleep, and I can't go to sleep because now this is one less name that the Raiders could potentially look at. But let's talk about Davis Webb because this was somebody that was the number 2 option for the silver and black. I was under the impression that going to bed on Sunday, waking up on Monday, hell, when I woke up on Tuesday, I thought that Webb could be the person that I was going to sit up here and go, this is the next head coach of the silver and black. But then certain things ended up happening. More and more reports came out saying, hey, the Raiders are all in on Klint. Hey, this is going to be the Raiders' plan. I mean, when you hear the term that it's essentially Klint or bust, I can't imagine what that makes Davis Webb feel like. And to me, I know I'm not going to be the only Raider fan that sits up here and goes, well, why did Davis Webb pull his name out of the running for the job? To me, there's 2 big reasons. The first reason is I think all of us knew once Webb did not get hired on Monday night or on Tuesday, and then more and more reports started coming out, you see the Vegas odds of Klint Kubiak shooting up the board. I think a lot of us knew it's like, all right, that's who they want. And I don't blame, Webb here because imagine if you're on that other side of it, right? It's the girl that you thought you were going to be able to date. Well, now they're more interested in somebody else. You don't want to go to that person. It's like, I don't blame Webb for doing it. But also at the exact same time, you can laugh at me, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I do wonder if the news that came out earlier this week that the Broncos are going to move on from Joe Lombardi, their OC. Now, there's been some beat reporters for Denver that say there's no correlation at all. But I do find it a little bit interesting that the Raiders, there's a lot of smoke around them potentially hiring Davis Webb. And then that there was, just some steam going that way. And then all of a sudden, bang, the Broncos decide to move on from Lombardi, which was pretty freaking crazy. I mean, look at this one coming in here from McFadden. Broncos coach Sean Payton to reporters in Denver at the potential of Davis Webb being hired. It would be a pain in the ass for him. And I think he was just kind of looking out for Webb in terms of this Raiders job can be a difficult job. On top of that, I think he's trying to reel him back in there a little bit. So you move on from your offensive coordinator, you promote Davis Webb, and I would anticipate he's going to be the offensive coordinator now of the Denver Broncos. I'll be curious to see if he turns over the play calling, Payton to Webb. Now that he withdrew his name, I'm going to be real. I actually don't think that he's going to do that. But if you take the Mike LaFleur underneath Sean McVay approach, you sit underneath the coach, you learn underneath one of the better quarterback coaches, and he's not getting younger anytime soon. So maybe you sit there, you think, all right, man, if I'm going to be a backup to Peyton for the next few years, I might be able to be the next Broncos head coach with the wealthiest franchise in the NFL worth like $74 billion. So to me, the reason why Davis Webb withdrew his name, he knew that the Raiders were all in on Klint Kubiak, and he knew that he could get a job being the offensive coordinator for the team that he was just at. So you guys let me know down below. This show is about y'all. I know I'm probably not the only one freaking out, and it's funny how just in the last 30, 45 minutes, because when I recorded the short earlier, I was like, I'm not really all that nervous. But some new information came out from the time that I recorded that short to where I am now, and now I am a little bit more nervous. So what's your panic meter? Scale it from 1 to 10. 1, you ain't sweating at all. 10, your hair's getting grayer than somebody who's, I don't know, in their 90s. We're losing our freaking minds here on the Raiders Report. I'm going to go. I was probably at like a 2 when I recorded my short earlier today, which, again, 30, 40 minutes ago. I'm probably now at like a 5. And the reason why I'm at a 5, it's not because we lost out on Davis Webb. Davis Webb was a good number 2 option. And again, I'm still all eyes on Klint Kubiak. He's been my number 1 guy since day 1. But when you see the report of who apparently the Raiders might hire if they don't get Klint Kubiak, where Davis Webb is here, this candidate to me, it's really down here. And I'm just being very honest with you. I'm going to tell you who that candidate is here in just a moment. And then I'm also going to tell you who. I'm hoping there's some other names maybe involved in case you don't get Klint. Huge shout out, though, to the America's number 1 fantasy sports app out there. It's PrizePicks. In the big game, it's almost here. There's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than PrizePicks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out right with PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Do you miss fantasy football? Well, PrizePicks lets you play fantasy football each week. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections every week. On PrizePicks, how you play is up to you, and if you want that flexibility, choose a flex play where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for the power play. No matter your play, PrizePicks is a great way to put your takes to the test. Now, this is not my lineup. I will put in a lineup of my own. This is actually Reed and I's lineup that we were talking about earlier today. And if you ever want to follow me on PrizePicks, I'm at Mitchell Renz 365. But again, you won't see this lineup. The reason why this one's really fun for a lot of fans out there that are rolling with Klint Kubiak is because Drake May is going to throw for more than 1 passing yard, right? And then this is not a PrizePicks stack. A PrizePicks stack is technically when you pick the same player up to 3 times. This is what I like to call my Klint stack, because I want to see JSN succeed. I want to see Kenneth Walker succeed. I want to see Sam Darnold succeed. I want to see the Seattle offense succeed with Klint Kubiak. And if you're going to be sitting back watching that game, and if you like this lineup, dude, roll with it. So download the PrizePicks app today. Make sure that you use code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. So the Raiders are all in on Klint Kubiak now that Davis Webb has decided to withdraw his name from the running from the Raiders head coaching gig. I always think it's funny how just the NFL changes day to day to day, hour to hour to hour. Literally, I was like getting ready to walk out, going to the gym, thinking it's my weekend. I will be back on Saturday. We're going to be live here on this show. And we're coming live on this show because I think all Raider fans deep down know it is Klint Kubiak or bust. And there were reports that came out today from Fowler earlier that the Raiders plan on making the decision on Saturday. And this does make me a little bit nervous. Eyes on Klint Kubiak for the Raiders job. But Panthers defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero is still in the mix there. Some candidates have been eliminated, but he has not. He conveyed detailed quarterback and offensive plan in person in an in-person meeting with the Raiders. Raiders regime and Evero have Denver ties. So, yes, there are some Denver ties there. Obviously, the Raiders also were very interested in the Sean McVay tree. They brought in Shieldhouse. They brought in Mike LaFleur. He's got some McVay ties going back to some of his days when he was working underneath McVay. But also, though, when you really consider the timing, Mark Davis has always been somebody that goes after what he wants, right? Think about the first interview. It was Davis Webb. That was January 7th. Webb was one of the finalists. Then also on that Friday, it was Klint Kubiak. Klint Kubiak is the finalist. But now you go back to when we started getting some of these second interviews. The Ejiro Evero interview was the other interview that happened on the exact same day that the Raiders also ended up, I believe, interviewing Mike McDaniel. Oh, no, it was Jesse Minter. They ended up interviewing Mike McDaniel after the College Football National Championship on that Monday down in Miami. And then there was some, wondering, hey, does that mean they're going to go out and get Minter? They were interested in Minter. Then Minter obviously chose the Baltimore Ravens job. But the other name that interviewed that day was Ejiro Evero. So when you see kind of like the timeline of how this team goes out after what they're looking for, I'm not shocked at all really now to hear Ejiro Evero is that other name. I'll be real with you, though. Like, this one does scare me because you really got to try to find an offensive coordinator that you know has maybe got some past head coaching ties and that you can trust with that quarterback and trust to run that offense. And I get it. He played with the Oakland Raiders in 2004. Once a Raider, always a Raider. I love it. And I know he's got DC experience. And in all honesty, I actually think he did a better job this season, and he's done a better job in Carolina than what he gets credit for. I mean, that's been a tough organization. Let's be honest with ourselves. But it's the ties to Sean McVay. It's the ties to the Rams. Ejiro Evero makes me nervous because I can remember when the Raiders said that they're going to interview him. What do? I like to go to other channels. I like to go to on social media, and I want to see what that fan base has to say about him, because if you're a fan of another team and you want to know what the Raiders fans think, you're going to learn a lot more learning from this channel from Raider fans than what you would have from Pete Carroll or Brennan Carroll. I can promise you that last offseason. So my point is, when I went to go look and I looked at some Panthers fans, it didn't really sound like a coach that they were all that upset that they were going to miss. Now, maybe it's a little bit of a Patrick Graham situation. PG gets a job in Pittsburgh. I've always thought that PG is a much underappreciated coach. Maybe it's the same in Carolina. But imagine me sitting up here on this show going, a coach of Patrick Graham's caliber is going to be the next Raiders head coach. Some people would be okay with it, but I don't know how many people would love it. And where I am afraid of is because I'm in love. I'm in love. I'm in love with Klint Kubiak, and I've been in love with Klint Kubiak to be this next head coach. It's been that way before Pete Carroll was still the head coach of this team. You go back and check out my video in early December. It was the top 10 coaches that I want the Raiders to hire when they decide to fire Pete Carroll. Number one on that list, offensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks, Klint Kubiak. So, yeah, I am a little bit more nervous now than I thought it was going to be when I originally did this show. But the reason why I do this show is because I'm a normal Raider fan like you. Reed hits me up and goes, hey, man, let's get a video. I think the nation is going to want to see it. So shout out to Reed, shout out to the nation for always staying up to date, because you guys are diehards, I'm a diehard, and that's why I'm here. The other reason, though, why I also really want Klint, look at this experience. This experience compared to Ejiro Evero, it is extremely different. And if you want a young, innovative, offensive-minded head coach, you are able to get that in Kubiak. And I put this list out here the other day because if you're the Raiders, I'm just going to try to just say it like this. Ejiro Evero, I'm not trying to go against you. I just don't know if you're going to be the right fit for the Raiders. At the same time, if you get the job, hey, man, hope you carry a chip on your shoulder. Hope you remember me, and I hope that you do everything in your power to prove me wrong. But if I'm the Raiders and I don't get Klint Kubiak, I'm sorry. I think you got to consider Chris Shula before you do Ejiro Evero, Sean McDermott, Mike LaFleur, and Nate Scheelhaus. I think all of those names have to be considered before you look at Ejiro Evero. Now, I know that there's a lot of choices out there to watch Raiders content. And if you were a fan and the moment you saw all this news, you thought, I want to know what Mitchell Renz has to say. Well, guess what? I'm the exact same way. I want to know what y'all have to say. So make sure you're always subscribed. Make sure you're always got those notifications turned on, because I promise y'all, nobody's ever going to outwork me and my team here, making sure the nation stays up to date.